In the recent video clip, a professor re-examined and questioned old experiments, particularly the one where a rat was confined in a tiny cage and given two types of drugs. He also doubted the prevailing perspective on addiction, which claims that heroin is the most addictive substance. But in reality, do you realize that we are addicted to many other things? Smoking, online gaming, overeating, to the point of obesity, these are also forms of addiction. Karaoke. If you can't go a week without drinking and singing, isn't that addiction too? We have countless bad habits, and all of them stem from addiction. Any bad habit that repeats over and over without being corrected is essentially a form of addiction. Through this video, we recognize one thing. The root cause of bad habits lies in unhealthy external connections. In truth, there is a very special connection that the video does not acknowledge, the connection with oneself. Has that person truly understood themselves? If they do not, they will tend to cling to external objects. And when they attach themselves to external objects without wisdom, they will cling to the wrong things. Instead of holding on to what is good, they cling to things that only provide temporary satisfaction. Heroin is an example. Inject it, and you feel pleasure for 15 minutes but suffer for a lifetime. Cigarettes are the same. You smoke one, feel at ease for 5 minutes, but end up addicted for years. When we analyze this video in depth, many sharp and meaningful insights emerge. It is worth contemplating that sometimes concise content is the culmination of research that has taken scientists up to 10 years. This is the dedicated work of a visionary psychology PhD. In the video, the professor presents thought-provoking statements like, "Would you rather have a big house or good friends? Friends are connections." This statement invites us to reflect on the true value of life, not vast material spaces, but meaningful relationships. It illustrates the importance of connection in preventing addiction and building a healthy lifestyle. In society, we often address addiction and negative behaviors by isolating individuals. When encountering addicts or people with bad habits like theft, which is simply another form of misconduct, we typically throw them into prison, essentially locking them in a literal cage. But put yourself in their shoes. When confined to such a closed space, would their soul feel at ease or distressed? Undoubtedly, they would feel distressed. What is worth pondering is that after 3 years of imprisonment, upon release, their distress does not vanish. On the contrary, it accumulates, embeds itself deep in their psyche, and turns into internal knots, emotional wounds that are difficult to heal. Then, when they return to everyday life, if someone accidentally touches that unresolved pain, it resurfaces, takes root more strongly, and they relapse into criminal behavior. Once I visited a prison. After sharing my thoughts with the inmates, I went to the director's office and had a conversation with the prison warden. I asked him, because I knew this statistic from many prisons, how many inmates return after 5 years. He releases them, but after 5 years they reoffend, and within his province they are inevitably sent back to his prison. His response: "After 5 years, our records show that 97% return. The remaining 3% either reform or die." Do you see? Looking at this, we realize that modern prisons around the world are nearly useless. They fail to solve the problem. The term prison was originally translated as reform camp, and the word reform is significant. Reform means change, improvement. Camp means construction, formation. In essence, we must change these individuals, rebuild their character so that a reform camp truly lives up to its name. Real reform is deep education. It must transform and rebuild a new person. They enter prison, and when they leave after 3 years, they should be a different person, someone who can contribute to life and bring value to themselves. Otherwise, they simply return to their old ways: theft, prostitution. But how many prison directors genuinely worry about this? Very few. Why do we rarely contemplate these issues? The deeper reason is our lack of skepticism, our lack of the necessary "do not believe too easily." We readily accept that prisons operate as they do, that the entire world does it this way, so following the same path should be enough. But this is the crucial point. Some things have existed for thousands of years and can still be completely wrong. Therefore, right view becomes immensely important in perceiving and solving problems. Right view is not just about seeing correctly, but about the ability to penetrate the essence of a matter, examine it from multiple perspectives, and boldly break rigid prejudices that have persisted for thousands of years. Once you truly understand this, you will no longer see prisons as you did before. Instead, you will transform them into special spaces. You will strive to introduce education into prisons by all means possible to change people from within. Rather than merely confining them, we can help them rediscover themselves, understand the deep-rooted causes of their negative behavior, and rebuild their lives in a more positive direction. When looking at life as a whole, we must ask ourselves, should we live 75 years just to earn money? Or should we live 75 years to embark on a journey of self-development? What is the right path? Even death is not merely an end, but a profound lesson in self-growth. Life is essentially a grand school, not just a pursuit of financial success, as many people believe. Looking deeper, we can see different levels of this journey. Those who engage in moderate self-development are on the right path. They know how to improve themselves and contribute to society. However, there is an even higher level. Those who delve into the depths of their consciousness, not only developing themselves but also understanding the profound nature of their mind, the psychological laws, and how to harmonize with the universe. For them, life is not just a school, but a true spiritual journey. This spiritual journey is more challenging, demanding more effort, but it brings greater joy and meaning. When you start seeing life as a spiritual journey, the meaning of life becomes clearer and deeper. If you view life as just an ordinary school, you may not fully grasp its significance. And the most thought-provoking idea, if life is merely a series of efforts to make money just to affirm what society defines as success, you will never touch the true meaning of life. You will always remain outside the door of true understanding. Even if you become a billionaire, you will still be standing outside that door, wealthy in material possessions but impoverished in spirit and purpose. So, why do we need connection? Why do humans always crave relationships with the outside world? Does this stem from inner weakness? When looking deeply into the nature of this issue, we see that if your inner self is strong enough, you will not need excessive external connections. This explains why enlightened masters and ancient sages chose their living environments the way they did. Did they live in bustling cities to connect with people? Or did they retreat into deep forests living alone? Which was more common? If you seek an enlightened master, a true sage, you typically have to go into the mountains, into the forests. Look at ancient texts. Every country, every culture has similar stories. Almost no enlightened figure chooses the city as their primary place of practice. This is why the Buddha spent 6 years in the deep forest. Only after completing his training, after truly perfecting himself, did enlightened masters step into the world to guide others. Meanwhile, some felt their journey was not yet complete, so they remained in solitude. However, what they perceived as unfinished was often far beyond our level of understanding. Therefore, if we truly seek wisdom, if we wish to learn from great teachers, we often have to turn to the mountains and quiet places. This is not coincidental, but a natural outcome of spiritual development. If you seek wisdom, you must go where enlightened beings have chosen to cultivate themselves. These enlightened beings offer us a profound counterpoint to the concept of connection discussed in the video. It seems that awakened individuals do not prioritize connections with the masses, but rather focus on two essential relationships: connection with oneself and connection with nature, with the vast universe. To them, these two connections are sufficient. They do not need to establish excessive relationships with many others. However, most of us are not such spiritual practitioners. We live in crowded cities in the hustle and bustle of modern urban life and cannot retreat into the wilderness. So, in the urban context, we must still seek meaningful connections. The question arises, in this world full of complex relationships, which connections are truly valuable? Which ones hold the deepest significance? What relationships can be considered treasures in life? These are not simple questions, but those who find genuine answers for themselves will grasp the true value of life. The slide I am presenting here contains only a few lines, but to complete it, I spent 5 years, dear friends. This is not as simple as many might think. You can go to Google and search in the Bible for phrases like the ideal living environment or the essential connections a person needs. Try searching. If anything is written in the Bible, it will only say one thing: the connection with God. You can also look into the Tao Te Ching by Laozi to see what it says about connection. Search everywhere, and you will find that very few sources speak about this clearly and specifically. A living environment is, in essence, a form of connection. This is something we often fail to recognize. The environment in which you live determines what you connect with. Where you live, you connect. For example, if you live in Vietnam, you connect with the people, the culture, and the energy of Vietnam. Thus, wherever we are born, we naturally connect with that environment. So the question is, what is the ideal living environment for our development? Fortunately, one person has articulated this very clearly in their works. While most thinkers have only briefly touched upon the subject of connection, this individual has explicitly identified 3 essential connections for human growth. According to this perspective, although we can form countless connections in life without knowing what to prioritize, we can easily fall into confusion, unable to determine what truly matters. Therefore, there are 3 most crucial connections that each person must cultivate deeply. These 3 elements lie outside of oneself, but have a decisive influence on our development. They are a wise mentor, a collection of great books, and a circle of good friends.